Centuries ago, Africa stood as a beacon of cultural diversity and immense natural wealth. But within a matter of decades, this thriving continent was divided and controlled by European powers. By 1914, only two African nations, Liberia and Ethiopia, remained free. Why did Europe, thousands of miles away, decide to colonize an entire continent? The answer lies in the complex web of ambition, economics, politics, and ideology. Today, we uncover the events that shaped one of history's darkest chapters, the colonization of Africa. Long before colonization, Africa was a continent of innovation and interconnectedness. The Kingdom of Mali, led by the legendary Mansa Musa, controlled vast gold reserves, making it one of the wealthiest empires in history. Ethiopia, a bastion of Christianity, resisted invasion for centuries, defending its sovereignty against both ancient and modern empires. Along the Swahili coast, traders exchanged African goods for Chinese silks and Indian spices, connecting Africa to global markets well before Europe's dominance. When Portuguese explorers arrived in the 1400s, they sought Africa's gold and spices. But soon, the transatlantic slave trade emerged, uprooting over 12 million Africans. This trade built the economies of Europe and the Americas, but it devastated African societies, depopulating regions and eroding social structures. As Europe industrialized, its appetite for raw materials grew insatiable. Factories demanded rubber, copper, oil, and more, resources Africa had in abundance. By the late 19th century, Africa wasn't just a supplier. It was a prize in a global competition. Britain's desire to control the Suez Canal in Egypt, a vital route to India, illustrates how strategic Africa had become. Meanwhile, King Leopold II of Belgium turned the Congo into his private fiefdom, extracting rubber through forced labor that killed millions. It was a humanitarian catastrophe disguised as a business venture. By the late 19th century, the rivalry among European powers for control over Africa had reached a breaking point. To avoid outright war, German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck convened the Berlin Conference in 1884. Delegates from 14 nations, including Britain, France, Germany, and Belgium, met to negotiate Africa's division. Notably absent were any African leaders or representatives. In just 3 months, these powers divided the continent with little regard for the existing kingdoms, languages, or cultures. For instance, the Hausa and Fulani peoples were split across multiple colonies, while the Somali people were divided among British Somaliland, Italian Somaliland, and French Somaliland. The result? Britain acquired a continuous stretch of land from Cairo to Cape Town, aligning with Cecil Rhodes' vision of a British-dominated Africa. France secured vast territories in West Africa, including modern-day Mali and Senegal. Germany claimed present-day Namibia and Tanzania, while Belgium seized the Congo, turning it into King Leopold II's personal colony. Each decision sowed the seeds of future ethnic and national conflicts. While the scramble for Africa was driven by economics and geopolitics, it was cloaked in ideological rhetoric. Europeans portrayed themselves as benevolent bringers of progress. The concept of the white man's burden, coined by Rudyard Kipling, suggested that it was a moral duty to civilize the so-called barbaric societies of Africa. This narrative framed colonization as a philanthropic mission, a guise that obscured its true purpose: domination and exploitation. Missionaries played a key role in advancing this narrative. Figures like David Livingstone believed that Christianity and Western education were essential to uplift African societies. But these efforts often stripped Africans of their cultural identities. In schools, indigenous languages were banned, and traditional practices were demonized. The so-called civilizing mission masked some of the worst atrocities in human history. In the Congo Free State, Leopold II's regime operated under pretense of abolishing the slave trade and spreading Christianity. Yet, millions of Congolese were forced into labor to extract rubber, a resource in high demand for Europe's growing automobile industry. Villages were burned, and workers who failed to meet quotas faced mutilation or death. Between 1885 and 1908, an estimated 10 million people died under Leopold's rule. The human toll of colonization was catastrophic. In South Africa, black workers labored in gold and diamond mines under conditions that amounted to near slavery. The Kimberley Diamond Mine, one of the largest in the world, relied on black laborers who worked long hours for meager wages, enduring constant risk of injury or death. In East Africa, the British imposed harsh taxes on local farmers, forcing them to grow cash crops like tea, coffee, and sisal for export. In Kenya, the British displaced over 1.2 million Kikuyu people from their ancestral lands to make way for white-owned farms. These lands, often the most fertile, became the foundation of Kenya's colonial economy, leaving local communities impoverished and landless. Environmental degradation was equally devastating. Colonial powers exploited Africa's natural resources without concern for sustainability. Forests were cleared for timber and plantations, disrupting ecosystems that had supported community for centuries. Rivers were polluted by mining operations, and wildlife populations were decimated by overhunting. These ecological disruptions had lasting effects, contributing to soil erosion and desertification in several regions. The mid-20th century marked the beginning of Africa's liberation. Ghana, under Kwame Nkrumah, became the first sub-Saharan nation to gain independence in 1957, setting off a domino effect across the continent. In Algeria, a brutal 8-year war of independence against France cost over 1 million lives, but ultimately ended colonial rule in 1962. In South Africa, the fight for independence was entwined with a struggle against apartheid. Nelson Mandela, imprisoned for 27 years, became the global symbol of resistance to racial oppression. His release in 1990 marked a turning point in South Africa's journey toward democracy. Yet, the scars of colonization remain. The arbitrary borders drawn by Europeans disregarded ethnic and cultural realities, leading to conflicts like the Nigerian Civil War and the Rwandan genocide. Economically, colonial systems left many nations dependent on exporting raw materials, perpetuating cycles of poverty and underdevelopment. In recent decades, African nations have struggled with what some call neocolonialism. Multinational corporations and foreign powers continue to exert control over African resources through exploitative trade agreements and debt dependency. This has sparked debates about sovereignty and economic justice. Today, Africa is reclaiming its narrative. Nations are investing in infrastructure and technology, with hubs like Nairobi and Lagos leading the digital revolution. Cultural revivals celebrate indigenous traditions, blending the old with the new. While the scars of colonization remain, Africa's resilience shines brighter. Europe's colonization of Africa is a story of exploitation cloaked in progress. Yet, it's also a testament to Africa's enduring strength. The lessons of this history call us to confront its injustices and build a future rooted in equity and respect. Thank you for watching. This story is not just about Africa, it's about all of us and the systems we've inherited. Let's discuss in the comments, what do you think is the most lasting legacy of colonization? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth explorations of our shared past.